أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سنفرغ لكم أيها الثقلان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يا معشر الجن والإنس إن استطعتم أن تنفذوا من أقطار السماوات والأرض فانفذوا لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يرسل عليكما شواظ من نار ونحاس فلا تنتصران فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فإذا انشقت السماء فكانت وردة كالدهان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيومئذ لا يسأل عن ذنبه إنس ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم فيؤخذ بالنواصي والأقدام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان هذه جهنم التي يكذب بها المجرمون يطوفون بينها وبين حميم آن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. So we continue Surah Ar-Rahman, and we mentioned last week that the surah has three portions. The first portion discusses Allah's mercies upon the insan, and the locus of the conversation is the insan, the human being. So there are many blessings that Allah has upon His creation, and those blessings revolve around the human being, revolve around the insan. That is the first part of the Surah Ar-Rahman. And the entire surah again connects to the first ayah, which is Ar-Rahman, because this is all description of Ar-Rahman, who is Ar-Rahman. And the latter portion of the first portion, which we completed last week as well, discusses the reality of every created being in front of Allah Azza wa Jal, which is that it is also from Allah's quality of being Ar-Rahman that He sustains all those things, because none of these things cease to exist except by the permission of Allah Azza wa Jal, and that they are continuously in a state of dependency. يَسْأَلُهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ يَسْأَلُهُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, that they are all asking Him, all those in the sky and the earth. What does that mean? Not just when a believer makes dua, but even when a rock wants to remain a rock and exist. It's asking Allah Azza wa Jal for the permission to exist. When we breathe, whenever we drink, whenever we speak, right? Even if we don't consciously understand that we're asking Allah Azza wa Jal permission to do that, right? We are. And this is why this is a sa'il. A beggar is someone who's dependent. So we are beggars in our utmost reality, and we are always begging Allah Azza wa Jal to sustain us. And this is our reality, we cannot escape it. A believer, what does he do? He just turns this reality which is deep inside of us into something he believes in something which is true, that I am dependent on Allah. Right? Others will try to distract themselves from it and try to think that they're able, and a believer then understands that no, they rely on Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah Azza wa Jal is kulla yawmin huwa fi sha'an. Allah Azza wa Jal is always in a high and lofty state. And then moving on to the next portion, the second portion has to do with punishment. So the second portion has to do with punishment and the resurrection day. Now we mentioned last week, what does this have to do with the connection of Rahman, right? This is very important. Right? When we're talking about Rahman, we're not just talking about, right, just one, characteristic. We mentioned that Rahman is a name which is an umbrella over many other qualities. An umbrella over many qualities. So just like Allah Azza wa Jal has Ismul Dhat, the name of His being, which is Allah, We know Allah as Allah, and under Allah comes the rest of His names. Ar-Rahman is another, right, very strong and powerful name of Allah Azza wa Jal, which from it many other names stem, and this is how the ulama explain it. Because in the Quran there's discussion between the name Allah and Rahman, and the disbelievers, they did not know what is Rahman, so they said Wamar Rahman, what is the Rahman, right? So Allah Azza wa Jalla said in one ayah, call him Allah or call him Rahman, ayyamma tad'u, whichever name you call him by, falahu al-asma'ul husna, for him belongs the perfect names. So the comparison between the name Allah and the name Rahman is there, which is also the reason why nothing is allowed to carry the name Ar-Rahman alone. The same way you cannot name something Allah, you cannot name something Ar-Rahman alone. You have to attach a nisbah to it. You have to attach an attribute to it. For example, abd, servant. So Ar-Rahman is a very strong and powerful name. It's not just the kind and merciful in the way that we understand it. Rather, it also carries the names of power and intimidation. Right? In order to have a balanced life, you have to have a balanced belief. And to believe that Allah is only merciful is an imbalanced belief. Right? Because if there's no intimidation, no fear, then nothing will stop you from doing something wrong. This is why you need a balanced belief, a balanced creed, a balanced idea of who Allah is. So the Christians try to minimize the Lord being to some being which is only merciful. Only merciful. But no, the Rahman, when He wishes, He can punish as well. And this is why in the Quran Allah says, Man khashiya ar-Rahman, the one who fears the Rahman. Why would you fear the Rahman, right? Why would you fear a merciful being? What's the connection between fear and merciful? Being merciful. This is why it's very important to understand that Rahman is a very grand name, and that we must carry a balanced idea of who the Rahman is, that the Rahman is a being of Jamal, of beauty, but a being of Jalal, of power and intimidation as well. The Rahman punishes as well. He rewards, but He punishes as well. In order to properly appreciate Allah's names, you must appreciate both aspects. His beauty, His Jamal and His Jalal, and His power and intimidation. Right? You must appreciate both. And the Sharia is a balanced practice and law based on His names, based on Him being the most merciful, but at the same time the most kind, the most generous, but at the same time the most powerful, the most able, the most intimidating, right? So because of that, you have halal, which is His kindness and generosity, and you have haram as well, right? You have haram, those things which Allah dislikes, He prohibits, right? And He punishes over those things. So in this portion, Allah Azza wa Jalla speaks about punishment. And so the Rahman also, when the Rahman wants to, the Rahman can punish. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, سَنَفْرُغُ لَكُمْ أَيُّهَا الثَّقَلَانِ, we shall call you to full account. سَنَفْرُغُ لَكُمْ. سَنَفْرُغُ لَكُمْ means that we will, on the day of resurrection, our sha'an, the sha'an of Allah Azza wa Jal, His affair is that He is at all times taking care of the entire universe, and it's under His watch, and it's existing and being because of Him. And on the day of resurrection, Allah Azza wa Jal will, before the day of resurrection, Allah Azza wa Jal will destroy many things. and then recreate and resurrect beings. And then Allah's attention will be all on the ayyuha thaqalan, on you. Allah's attention will be entirely on you. Right? So when the president or prime minister takes out their entire time just to listen to you and talk to you, Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying that my time will be sanafrugu lakum, we will be entirely paying attention to you. Ayyuha thaqalan, O you two burdened ones. Thaqalan refers to insan and jinn, the two burdens, the two weights. Why? Because they're two weights over the earth, right? They're both beings that are weighty over the earth. Ayyuha thaqalan. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Then which of your Lord's blessings will either of you belie? The constant repetition of this ayah, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, is also to really dig down inside of ourselves to show how ungrateful the insan is, for us to come to recognition with this, that how much we know of and we're still ungrateful of it. How much, right, of the appearances of Rahmaniyah, of Allah's being Rahman, kind, generous, merciful, and everything He does is in front of us, but we do not acknowledge those things, we do not appreciate those things. يا معشر الجن والإنس إن استطعتم أن تنفذوا من أقطار السماوات والأرض فانفذوا. O human beings and jinn, if you are able to penetrate through the outer spheres of the heavens and the earth to escape Allah's judgment, then do so, penetrate them. Yet never shall you penetrate them, لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان, but with our overwhelming authority. So Allah Azza wa Jal in this ayah is speaking about, you can take this ayah and describe two things, right? The life in this world and the life at the time of resurrection. That at the time of resurrection, one person would want to escape their resurrection, but they will not be able to. They will not be, as it comes in other ayat, that one cannot even whisper or move a foot except by the permission of Allah Azza wa Jalla. The other being, in this world, when we travel, right? لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان. You cannot penetrate to any of these skies except with the sultan. Sultan in the Arabic language, its original meaning is الزيت الذي يضاء به, oil by which you use to lighten a lantern or something. You use it to bring light, right? So that light guides you to where you need to go, right? So the same oil you put in your car, same oil you put in your airplane or rocket or whatever, right? None of these things can penetrate beyond their capacity except by the permission of Allah. And this is when you appreciate the language, then sultan, that what sultan means, its actual meaning, which is the oil which is used to lighten a lantern, and then what is its traditional meaning in which we generally use, which is a proof and evidence, right? So a proof and guiding evidence and dalil, right? A dalil. So لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. Then which of your Lord's blessings will either of you belie? يرسل عليكما شواظ من نار ونحاس فلا تنتصران. Flares of fire and molten brass shall be sent upon you. Right? Shuwal is smokeless fire, right? So fire, flames without smoke, and nuhas is fire with smoke. So light and dense different forms of fire will be sent. فَلَا تَنْتَصِرَانِ. And nor shall you be helped, nothing will help you. فَلَا تَنْتَصِرَانِ. You cannot help each other, nor can anything help you. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Then which of your Lord's blessings will either of you belie? So sometimes the punishment and being deprived of something good, right, it also then reminds us of Allah's blessing. Right? So sometimes, if good times doesn't remind us to be shakir, to be thankful, then difficult times will definitely remind us. Right? Difficult times definitely remind us. So this is the connection between the ayah فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ and punishment. You know, there must be a reason why Allah is repeating this ayah. It's not just without any reason. There isn't a letter mentioned or repeated in the Quran, let alone an entire ayah, without reason. Right? So when you think about the punishment, that should also give you another form and way to acknowledge, ponder, reflect on Allah's blessings over you. And then to be more grateful to Him and more thankful to Him, and to ask Him of His protection. فَيَوْمَئِذٍ لَا يُسْأَلُ عَنْ ذَنْبِهِ إِنسٌ وَلَا جَانٌ فَإِذَا انشَقَّتِ السَّمَاءُ فَكَانَتْ وَرْدَةً كَالدِّهَانِ. And when the heaven splits and becomes rose red, like thickly flowing cream. So when on the day of resurrection, when the sky will split, and Allah Azza wa Jal will raise everyone on the platform, the sky will be like wardah, like red, like when the petals of a rose are separated. And what the ulama say is that this sky is then at that time a manifestation of the anger of Allah Azza wa Jal on the day of resurrection. This will be the anger of Allah Azza wa Jal on the day of resurrection. Right? Because as it comes in hadith, that Allah Azza wa Jal will say on the day of resurrection, today I have a ghadab, a type of anger which لَمْ أَغْضَبْ مِثْلَهُ قَبْلَهُ وَلَا بَعْدَهُ. That I have never had this anger before nor after. So it's a day that the great form of Allah's jalal, His power, intimidation, anger will manifest in front of the people. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Then which of your Lord's blessings will either of you belie? فَيَوْمَئِذٍ لَا يُسْأَلُ عَنْ ذَنْبِهِ إِنسٌ وَلَا جَانٌ. For on that day then neither human nor jinn need be asked about his sin. They will be asked, but why is Allah saying that they won't need to be asked? You'll see in the coming ayah, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Then which of your Lord's blessings will either of you belie? يُعْرَفُ الْمُجْرِمُونَ بِسِيمَاهُمْ فَيُؤْخَذُ بِالنَّوَاصِي وَالْأَقْدَامِ. For the defiant unbelievers, al-mujrimun, those who are criminals, constantly committing sin, they will be known by their distinctive mark, simahum. Sima refers to the mark on a person's forehead. So it will be as if it's known and seen, apparent on their forehead. Allah protect us. فَيُؤْخَذُ بِالنَّوَاصِي وَالْأَقْدَامِ. Then seized and thrown into hell by the forelocks and the feet. They will be dragged by the angels by their forehead and their feet into the hellfire. How will they be known? Just all of the realities which were hidden to us regarding our sin, those will be apparent in the hereafter. Right? Those will be apparent in the hereafter. And so a person's good deeds or sin will also be apparent. Right? This is why we must hold on to certain actions very strongly, like wudu. The wudu, it purifies a person's limbs, a person's body. When you perform wudu, the sin of your hands get washed off. When you perform wudu, the sin of your face and your forehead gets washed off. When you perform wudu, the sin of your feet gets washed off. Right? The people that perform wudu properly will come with shining limbs on the day of resurrection. Right? Their foreheads will be shining, their shoulders will be shining. Right? So this is why we have to hold on to these actions very strongly, so that we're not caught in what the criminals are caught in, that their sins will be apparent on their limbs. We want that our wudu is apparent on our limbs, our ibadah is apparent on our limbs. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Then which of your Lord's blessings will either of you belie? هذه جهنم التي يكذب بها المجرمون يطوفون بينها وبين حميم آن. It shall be said then, this is the hell which the defiant believers, which the defiant unbelievers did in life belie. This is the hell fire that no one believed in, that the criminals did not believe in, they did not pay attention to. So this is also Allah's Rahmaniyah, that He's telling you and I, right, of the punishment. And so now the issue is that when we speak about punishment, if we have a halaqah and we talk about Jahannam, right, then what happens? Oh, why are you speaking about Jahannam? Don't talk about such a great thing which Allah is telling us about. It's like if we started telling each other or stopped reminding each other of illnesses, that all these, there's no such thing as illness. There's no such thing as cancer, just because we don't want to talk about it, right? But that would be complete ignorance. And a person who is caring will tell you ahead of time if there's a test in front of you. If there's some difficulty that can come, a person who's caring will tell you. Allah Azza wa Jal instilled the care in the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, and so they warned their people of the punishment before it came. So this is also Allah's Rahmaniyah, His kindness, His mercy, that He is telling us. He is telling us, describing for us everything before, so that we may prepare for it. يَطُوفُونَ بَيْنَهَا وَبَيْنَ حَمِيمٍ آن. Between its fire and intensely scalding fluid. طُوفُونَ بَيْنَهَا وَبَيْنَ حَمِيمٍ آن. Hamim is a burning and extremely boiling fluid. That they will be between the fire and its boiling fluid, as it comes in the hadith, right? That the people of the hellfire, when they will be in the hellfire, they will ask for something to drink. And when they will ask for something to drink, they will be brought boiling water which is mixed with the pus of the people of the hellfire. And they will drink that boiling hamim. And then that boiling water will burn their entire organs out of their body. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Then which of your Lord's blessings will either of you belie? So we covered the first portion of Surah Ar-Rahman, we covered the second portion, and now the third portion remains, which is Allah's kindness, mercy and generosity over the people of Jannah. May Allah Azza wa Jal grant us understanding of the ayat that we read. Forgive us for any shortcoming in our attempt to understand His perfect word. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين صدق الله العظيم سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك اللهم ونتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خيرا. Inshallah, there's breakfast for everyone.